Hey, what's up? Welcome to Breaking the Fourth Wall, take 2 of part 3. We've been having a lot of technical difficulties, guys, so if you're not seeing us on YouTube, that's why. But you will hear us, Radiocast, we're here for you guys. Welcome to episode 3. In this episode, I will be joined tonight by my typical co-host, making their triumphant return for season 3, Christen Stovall.
Hello, everybody.
And Eric Batista Sr.
Hola.
Hola, ¿cómo estás? Bien. And of course, we have the godfather of pop culture himself, Dan Laria.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
I said godfather, not king of pop.
Whatever.
All right. Well, we're gonna attempt this again. We in this episode we were gonna sit here and talk about Mel Brooks, you know, the master of the satire comedy and the influence that he's had on comedy throughout since you know his catalog of movies. But before we get into that, this week we did have the finally much anticipated release of Star Trek Discovery for CBS All Access. And I wanted to take a quick couple minutes and just talk about Star Trek a little bit and what we thought of Discovery. Again, I will start off with Mr. Dan Laria, who was our resident Star Trek expert, get his opinions, his pros and cons, go through the panel, and then we will move on. So, Dan, take it away. What did you think of Star Trek Discovery?
Well, unfortunately, if nobody got to hear the glowing conversation that we had before we started recording, so I'm going to start from the very beginning. Once upon a time, no, I'm kidding. The problem with Star Trek is that you're going to have to look at Star Trek with a very clean slate, okay? What I mean by that is if you're going to worry about continuity, if you're going to worry about Kevin timeline versus Prime timeline, if you're going to worry about the fact that the Klingons look different than they did in any other series, TV or movie, you're going to get stuck. Okay? If you look at it as if they were doing a complete revision or reboot and you try to enjoy it that way, that's the only way you're going to be able to enjoy this show. There's just too much that they've changed that they haven't explained in order to sit there and say, oh yes, this has nothing to do with the original Star Trek. This has nothing to do with Star Trek Enterprise. This is supposed to be with 10 years before Kirk and Spock are the captain and the first officer of the Enterprise that we knew and loved, and which would be about 90 years after Archer. Now, they tell you that it's supposed to be original Prime line, and that they're going to explain what happened in between the time that Archer, Pike, and Kirk were involved with the Enterprise. And don't even get me started about Captain April. That'll just take too long. Okay? The problem with trying to explain what happens in between all of these captains being the captain of the Enterprise is that they don't explain, A, where this main character came from. She's supposed to be the adopted daughter of Sarek, the father of Spock, and yet she's never mentioned in the original series once. They're going to be talking about the Klingon War with the Federation, which even that was only mentioned in passing once. So at least they mentioned something. We're talking about something that's been mentioned. The Klingons have been changed a second time, so this is the third version of what the Klingons are supposed to look like. Whereas in Star Trek Enterprise, which is, by the way, the fifth version of this is the sixth Discovery, they finally just explain away why the Klingons look different in the movies and in Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise than they do in the original, which they actually do give a good explanation. in order for anybody that's a true Star Trek fan to be happy with this new change, they're going to have to explain that also. Okay? So there's a lot that's going to have to explain, and a whole lot of complaints going on. My suggestion would be, if anybody wants to sit down and try to enjoy the show, forget anything that you've seen before. Okay?
So
because
if you want to enjoy the show, forget it, Star Trek.
Exactly. Now, the problem with that, Kristen, which you're probably already seeing, is that they're trying to use this as the flagship for their new All Access. Okay? Every time you look up Star Trek for anything, you see Star Trek CBS All Access. Now keep in mind, guys, that it's called Star Trek Discovery, and the actual the USS Discovery hasn't even been seen yet in the show, and we're 2 in. So it's a little. The whole thing is a little ridiculous. I think they're going to have a lot of problems getting people that know and love any version of any of the other 5 Star Treks to pay money to watch it on their All Access. And I think they're going to have even more of a problem getting people who never watched Star Trek to pay money to watch the new one, because okay, well, if you've never seen it and you've never watched it, why are you going to pay $5.95 or $9.95 in order to watch something that you've never watched in the first place? So, and I mean, I could go on and on and on, but I'm sure you guys want to move on to other things at some point.
Yeah.
Eric, I know you're the only other one that's actually seen it.
I'm about a half hour into the recording. I had to go to work, or try to go to work. So.
And go ahead and give us.
What I feel is, like, it's a new show. That's why I look at it. I don't try to link it to the other shows, or with John-Luc Picard, or Captain Kirk. I don't do that. I just watch the series, and I'm out to, I love sci-fi movies, and shows. It's just a shame that with the genre of people today, it's hard to put people in this stuff. In the sci-fi on big networks. Because I like that police show they had last year that was sci-fi, but it was on regular channel, and it didn't do too well.
Oh, that Almost Human or whatever?
With them souped-up cop cars?
Right, with the android cop.
Oh, Darren Irvin, the guy who played McCoy on the 3 Star Trek reboot movies.
Right.
Well, they had that cop one, and the guy that played Dredd in the reboot, but then there was also another cop show. I can't remember what it was. Oh my God. It had what show was she from? I forget what it was called, but there was a cop show that was on last year.
I think, excuse me, I think it was called Almost Human. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but because I know
this one's a lot. It's totally different. It's totally different. It's Chicago, and this guy was a brainiac with technology.
that was Mr. Robot, wasn't it?
Yeah. They dealt with like present time. He had special cop cars, gadgets, them droids that fly up in the air. So that's pretty cool stuff. I can't think of what the name of it.
Well, I didn't watch it. It doesn't sound familiar.
No.
Well, I made one season. That's that part. But my belief is it's very hard to draw people to sci-fi technology movies today, because kids are all into certain kind of robot movies or killer movies, Yeah, I mean, it's very hard to pass on to younger generation. Like from what Star Trek stuff had to be, from Captain Kirk to, you know, for some, yeah, it's very hard for Star Trek to be on TV. I really do.
What they're trying to do, Chris, is they're trying to make Star Trek Discovery the sci-fi version of Game of Thrones.
Oh,
There's.
I mean, I love Game of Thrones, but oh God.
Yeah. Well, but that's what's happening. They're spending a lot of money. They're spending like some ridiculous amount of money, $6 or $7 million per episode. It was supposed to be 13, now it's 15 episodes. There's supposed to be nudity involved in it. There's supposed to be a lot, like they're starting off the show with the Klingon War, okay? The whole point of the original Star Trek was to talk about the human condition and how we got rid of racism and every other type of ism, and we put that all aside and started exploring space. Now we're being introduced to a situation where a woman who was supposed to be the first officer, which by definition is the second in command of the Shinzu, okay, we're put in a situation where we're led to believe that she's been the first officer of the ship for the last 7 years. To put that in perspective, that means we're being introduced to her when the captain of the Shinzu is saying, it's time for you to leave the nest, you need your own command. So basically, the time frame would be if Picard and was saying goodbye to Riker after their 7-year stint with Riker being number one. Okay? So there's that. There's the issue that, and spoiler alert, I'm about to talk about things. If you haven't seen the pilot, put this on pause now, where the number one character and the number one of the ship is going to basically disobey direct orders from not only the captain, but the admiral, who she was standing there when the admiral gave the captain the orders to begin with. Okay? She's going to start a war with the Klingons because her adopted father, Sarek, told her that the only way that they could make a peace treaty with the Klingons is to fire on them every single time they saw them. And the captain of the Shinzu keeps on saying, Starfleet does not fire first. Starfleet does not fire first. So she basically takes the captain to her ready room, gives her a Vulcan neck bench, knocks her out, comes back in, and tries to convince the science officer, who's not buying this for a minute, that what they need to do is fire on the ship. I'm sorry. You supposedly graduated from Starfleet Academy, where they put you through all these tests to make sure that you can actually deal with things under pressure, like the Kobayashi Maru. You've been raised a Klingon, I'm not a Vulcan, excuse me, which means that you're supposed to be very logical. And yet, because your parents were killed by Klingons when you were a child, you're going to forget all of your Vulcan training, you're going to forget all of your Starfleet training, you're going to betray the captain that you've been the first officer of for the last 7 years, whose job description is to make sure that the captain's orders are obeyed at all times. And you're going to disobey that person. And you're going to lead me to believe that I'm buying any of this in the first hour of the show. I call bullshit.
All right, well, I got to
make you believe that they put you to pay for it.
Well, I will play the devil's advocate here real quick so we can move on. I will play the devil's advocate real quick on this, and I'm going to get Kristen's, because I know Kristen hasn't seen the show, but based on everything you've heard and everything else, I'm going to get your opinion on this after I state this. The one pro I will give this show, there's 2 pros I will give it. One, it is the best looking Star Trek TV show to date. Like, you can definitely tell they put the money into the special effects. Everything looks movie quality. You know.
Actually, it looks better than the movies.
But that's what I mean. It looks movie quality. It doesn't look as generic and low budget as a lot of the other Star Trek shows have always looked.
Correct.
So that is one thing I will definitely give them credit for. The second thing I give credit to, and I'm not going to get his name right. I'm not going to get his name right at all. But the main antagonist Klingon in the first two episodes is a phenomenal character. Where they have him almost Malcolm Xing getting the 24 houses of ruling houses of the Klingon Empire to merge into one, with his propaganda feeding of they will always tell their lie of we come in peace to fuel the fire. Like he was a great character in what I consider to be a complete clusterfuck of a TV show.
Actually, if I can just interrupt for 1 second, that's the one thing that they got right. Because the Klingon race is all about battle, battling, the honor of the battle. They look at fighting as being a thing of honor, and if you die in battle, then you die well. So if you have a Klingon empire with 24 different houses, and they can't get along for 2 seconds, the idea of him bringing them all together in order to have as he called it, a worthy foe in the Federation, okay, that part is brilliant. That part, I think they did very well. I think they represent the Klingons extraordinarily well. I think they represent the Federation itself horribly.
Right. Which kind of leads me to my question to Christen, and I pose this one to Christen because she hasn't seen any of the episodes yet. So she might be objective. Being the fact of somebody who may or may not be a Star Trek fan, or as into Star Trek as others. I know you were into Voyager and stuff of that nature. Could the possibility of the bad feelings towards what they've done with Star Trek Discovery be because of the fact of we're just expecting too much of a 50-year-long franchise and are holding on to what we've known for 50 years and not embracing something new? Or is this really just CBS's cash grab?
I think it's CBS's cash grab. One, they're being lazy. They're not doing anything new. They're going back into the past. Like, okay, quit with the going back into the past. Let's see what's going to happen next. Because instead of writing anything new, as they've been doing in more than one franchise, they're just going back and rehashing and filling on all these little things that they don't have to be. I don't understand why they're limiting themselves, because one, you are going to run a lot more chance to piss off the fans because you're messing with stuff that's already established. And two, it's just lazy. It's not creating anything new. It's just trying to recreate. And I think it's kind of an insult to the franchise, because what appealed to a lot of people was that it was a dream of what humanity could be. I don't know. I feel like I just am not, to be honest, I have not been excited about the Star Trek series from the get-go, and I love Star Trek. I grew up watching it, but nothing about any of this has been exciting, has sounded exciting or interesting to me. It's all just sounded very heavy-handed, and I don't know. I feel like you should honor the source material, and instead of doing that, they're just rewriting it.
Well, I think you hit the nail right on the head, is that the fact that most people are going to look at this as they're not honoring the source material in any way, shape, or form. They're not even honoring what they've established in the J.J. Abrams reboots. It seems like they're just kind of going their own way. I do got to comment on the one thing about Star Trek, and I've always found this to be ironically hypocritical that Gene Roddenberry had created this series 50 years ago, demonstrating humanity's possible future, like utopian future of space exploration, where we've gotten rid of war, disease, bigotry, inequality, and stuff of that nature. And he was the biggest misogynist and greed monger that ever existed. Like, if you ever actually read and seen the stories of Gene Roddenberry himself, he was kind of an asshole. Yet he wrote, like, the perfect future for everybody. I don't know.
Maybe it was what he was hoping he could be.
Yeah, well, he you know what? Him and his family definitely, in the end, prospered from the longevity of what he created. So, good on him. But I always found that to be like the total irony, is knowing that he was a womanizer, he was an alcoholic, the story I got, like, to give an example of how greedy he was. The original Star Trek theme has lyrics. Did anybody know this?
Yes.
Gene Roddenberry wrote lyrics to the original Star Trek theme that you have never heard, because they barely even fit the music that was written. He just did it so that way he could get royalties from the song.
But see, what you're quoting somebody who has the sour grapes and stuff. It's all wonderful and good and to say that Gene Roddenberry was an asshole, but you also have to understand that everybody that wrote a book about Star Trek and dished on Gene Roddenberry and dished on William Shatner and the entire cast dished on each other in order to sell books is because, as Marina sort of said it in Next Generation, no one is going to ever ask any of the casts from Next Generation to write a book because they all got along, okay? People don't want to hear they all got along. They want to hear all the crap. Or they want to hear all the dip.
I want to hear all the tawdry details.
Exactly. So what's really ironic is that even though the original show was supposed to be the beacon of light that said, hey, even though all these civil rights things are going on right now, because we're talking about the 60s, okay, eventually we're going to figure it all out, except that no one from that original cast ever paid attention to the message because they all sat there and wrote books about how horrible the rest of them were. It's really ridiculous. Can I just say one thing about how easily they could have made Discovery work?
Feel free.
So in the final Next Generation movie, it ends off with Shinzon taking over the Romulan Empire, and Picard and the Romulan commander are actually teaming up to taking him out. And Picard and the Romulan commander, agreeing that maybe there could be some kind of peace between the Federation and the Romulans at some point in time. That left hope, okay? In the reboot, we find out that not that many years after that meeting, we find out that the Romulan star actually explodes, and Spock tries to save the Romulans. Now, on the Kelvin side, obviously he failed, and there's a new timeline. On the prime timeline side, we don't know if Spock failed or not. Okay, but what would have been interesting is if they would have picked it up from that point where Picard and the Romulan commander were actually trying to get along, and maybe they were trying to get along. And maybe if they would have said, okay, we have two ways that we can go with this. Either Spock succeeded and that explosion never happens, or he still failed, and now we have to deal with the repercussions of the Romulan Star Empire being destroyed and the Romulans being scattered all over the place, and pick it up from there. You could have used the same exact uniforms that you're using right now. You could have used the same exact ships that you're using right now. You could have introduced the main character as someone who was adopted by Spock's and Sarek's family, their descendants, and still plugged her in perfectly. And you could have taken the Klingons that are being used right now and describe those Klingons as being another faction or another house of the Klingons, and that's why they look different than the Klingons that we know right now, and still use the same exact storyline and everything.
Now, see, I would have gone a different direction. I get where you're coming from, but I would have gone a different direction. With Discovery, especially with a name like Discovery, I would have gone beyond Star Trek: The Next Generation. I would have put us, give or take, about 200 years further into the future. Okay?
Yes.
The story of Enterprise, the story of Enterprise J, for the sake of argument here. And this story, why is it Discovery? Or even not even the Enterprise J, it's the USS Discovery. But its primary mission is true deep space exploration, where the Federation finally explore outside of their own galaxy. Not just going beyond the quadrant, going beyond the solar system, the galaxy themselves.
Mm-hmm. And that sort of exploration they opened up with Voyager and Deep Space Nine, and that we were going into other quadrants.
Right, but that was still within the galaxy.
Further, and instead they go back.
Right, that's my point. Like with Voyager, they wound up in another sector of the galaxy that was unexplored. But now, 200 years in the future, they've already explored all four quadrants of the galaxy. Now they're set up to send this ship to go beyond the borders of our own galaxy.
So they could be on their way to Andromeda or something.
Right.
Okay. Now here's a point. Here's a point of interest. In the second pilot, or where No Man has gone before, they for whatever reason they decided to do it. I don't know why, but if you see old clips of the deleted scenes from the second pilot where No Man has gone before, they already are actually, they show a picture of them already leaving our galaxy. Okay, you see the entire Milky Way galaxy in the background. So when they're talking about where No Man has gone before, they're already doing what you are suggesting, and for some reason that clip was left on the editing floor, and yeah, it's a shame because that would have been a really interesting way of getting started in the first place.
Well,
but
my reasoning for stepping outside of the galaxy is you eliminate everything we know of Star Trek. Because of the fact now they're exploring something they've never been to before. They're going to encounter alien races that have no idea what the United Federation of Planets is. They're not going to follow the prime directives or the rules of law or the neutral zone. So you can introduce so many new type of alien species that don't follow the rules. So there's your edgy new Game of Thrones style. Yeah, there's your new edgy Game of Thrones style Star Trek. Because everything you've known is gone. It's like starting from square one all over again.
And it's not Star Trek. It takes to take the Skywalkers out of Star Wars, and what do you have?
Rogue One.
Hey, I liked Rogue One.
That was my point.
I think
yeah, but who still shows
what they've done from what I hear. I haven't seen it in credits, I'll admit it, but it sounds to me like going forward would be more Star Trek than what they're doing.
Exactly. And whether you like my version or Chris's version, which personally I think are both good versions, both better versions of what they're doing, can we all agree that prequels don't always work?
Being a Star Wars fan, being a Star Wars fan, I could definitely say prequels usually do not work.
Because
people want to know what's going to happen next, not what happened before.
Exactly. Now, you both mentioned, and I think this was either off air or a first attempt at being on air. You both mentioned that you guys liked Deep Space Nine and Voyager to a point, correct?
She mentioned she liked Voyager.
I love Voyager.
I said I hated Deep Space Nine. It's
Okay.
actually my least.
Well,
It's actually my least favorite of the Star Trek series.
well, the point I'm going to make here is in Deep Space Nine, when the Dominions cross into the Alpha Quadrant, they start taking out whole planets and whole civilizations. You really do not know what's going to happen in that war. Okay? In the novelizations, I don't know if you guys know this, but in the novelizations, the Borg come back yet again, and the Borg take out Beta Z, they take out the Deltans, they take out a bunch of established planets and civilizations, so that they're pretty much scavengers like the guidance people are, okay? So, in the Borg War, in the novelizations, you don't know what's going to happen. Well, now let's look at Star Trek Discovery. Well, the Federation's going to win the Klingon War because it only happens for like 4 years. And you know who wins.
Unless they decide to create a totally new timeline, so then we'll have 3 separate timelines. Which it begs to differ at that point. Why don't you just start a new franchise and not call it Star Trek? Just make it your own thing.
Right. Because, it goes back to what you said, Kristen, because they're trying to money grab.
They're just using the Star Trek name, but they don't want to honor any of what Star Trek, any of where it came from.
Exactly. I just bought a book today. It's the first novelization of Star Trek Discovery. And on the back cover, it says when the first officer first becomes the first officer, one of the first missions of the Shinzu is to try to save a Federation colony. Now, in the second paragraph of the description of this book, the first novelization of Star Trek Discovery, it says that Starfleet says that the colony itself is expendable because of the threat that they find on the planet. When has that ever happened in Star Trek that a Federation colony is expendable?
I think there have been times it's borderline, but it's always the bad guy who's saying it.
Exactly, not the Starfleet.
Because you've got the Maquis and everything, and that got very murky as to who the bad guy was and who the good guy was. But they've always been it's never, even with the Maquis and those colonies, they wanted to get those people out first. The people refused to go, and it was at that point that they were like, "Well, you guys are making your choice." I don't think it's ever been a matter of, they're just expendable. Traditional Star Trek would say, let's get these people out of there and, and let the chips fall where they may.
So if we haven't figured it out by what we've seen on this pilot and second episode, it's definitely literally in black and white in this new novelization that Starfleet and the Federation are a lot darker than even in Deep Space Nine. Even with Section 31, this new Star Trek is a lot darker than anything we've ever seen. And I'm at the point where I'm saying it's not even Star Trek. Orville has more in common with Star Trek than Star Trek.
No, it seems like they're trying to take the direction of the darker, grittier Battlestar Galactica, or, dare I say, they're trying to take a lead from Star Wars.
It looks a lot more like Star Wars than it does Star Trek at this point.
But
come on. The first thing they do is the first scene is a desert planet.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh, wow. So they're trying to rip off Star Wars and use the Star Trek name. That's going to work well.
Watch it. Here comes a lightsaber. It's coming.
Oh, I don't get the animosity, but that's going to work well.
Look, you know what? As a fan of both franchises, you know, I guess again I'm more of a Star Wars fan than Star Trek, but I'm not a hater of Star Trek. I've never been a hater of Star Trek. I've always loved Star Trek. You know, like Eric said earlier, I'm a fan of science fiction. So in general, both of them are like the pinnacle in their own rights of sci-fi and fantasy. Okay.
Right.
But what makes them so great is how unique they are from each other. You know,
from anything else, I agree.
And if you start blending in elements from one into the other, you're not only destroying the uniqueness of each, but you're pandering and destroying everything that everybody has ever loved about either of the franchises.
But I don't think they're just stealing from Star Wars. I think they're definitely stealing from Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is, without a doubt, and it's not even an argument, that it is the most popular TV show of all time. Okay? Every single person that I know, whether they watch it or they don't watch it, whether they're waiting to binge watch it or watching it episode at a time, they know every single character. They know a majority of the plot lines. Think about this. People who don't even watch Game of Thrones know who Dany and Jon Snow are.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know who they are.
There we go. Eric's just proving us.
I don't even, I'll be honest with you, I don't even know one character from Game of Thrones, so there you go. Oh.
Well then, you know nothing, Eric Batista.
For those that don't know Game of Thrones like Eric, they will not catch the joke in that. For you Game of Thrones junkies, there should have been a little chuckle for the you know nothing.
Well played.
I'll say this, Eric. One day I'll drop off my collection of Game of Thrones on DVD for you. You'll binge watch it and you'll be addicted, I guarantee you.
Yeah, and then you laugh at the joke that I just told.
I guess you guys are doing more fantasy.
On a warm, rainy day, and that was on there, I think I watched 30 seconds of a clip, and I was like, I can't do it, and I changed it. It doesn't appeal to me. Something about the show that has to appeal to me, and I can get into it. You know, like me, I love hospital shows, cop shows, always a big fan of it. Anything that can be like Fire and Flies, stuff like that, I'm down. I'm good. I love stuff like that. I'm a big fan of the 80s show. Big fan. Love the 80s show. And I'm working at there's one show from the 80s that I found out that this really was successful. It's been strange that they even made it.
Well, I will state this much, because we're already 40 minutes into this episode. I will make a judgment call here, because I think Mel Brooks deserves his time. That I think we're going to push back the discussion of Mel Brooks till next week. So we kind of dedicated this episode to Star Trek. Sorry, guys. But Mel deserves more than about 10 minutes worth of time.
I agree.
So
I support this decision.
You know,
especially since he wrote something called The History of the World Part II.
He never wrote it. He never wrote it. It was a joke about him making a sequel that he never made. I wish he made it. I wanted to see Hitler on ice and Jews in space, but it never happened.
Wait, so The History of the World, is that Part 1 or Part 2?
It's Part 1.
Oh, is that Part 1? Okay. But he mentions Part 2.
He mentions it at the end,
yeah. He mentions Part 2. It does sort of like a teaser at the end, but it never became a movie.
However, I will discuss this. He made the kind of a similar joke in Spaceballs with Spaceballs 2: The Search of More Money. And
at least he was consistent.
And
actually, you know what? If you want to do a segue between Star Trek, Star Wars, and Spaceballs, there it is, right there.
well, exactly. But the one thing he had mentioned is that he fully intends to make Spaceballs 2, especially with Star Wars being back into the mainstream. But he would only do it if Rick Moranis would come back as Dark Helmet, which everybody knows about. You know, Rick being.
What?
I thought Eric
I
was.
support that. I
You
think
need to give me money back. Just get it from me in the morning.
But you know, we all know Rick's story about his wife dying, and he left acting to be able to take care of his family, and you know, step up type of guy.
yeah.
Last reported, Rick Moranis has agreed to play Dark Helmet.
Nice.
That would be amazing. So basically, we're doing like the teaser of next show, like Mel Brooks would do, except he might hopefully we'll actually do it.
Yes.
Well, if not, it would fit perfectly with the current merger of Realm of the Mist with America's Pop Culture Magazine, because when Dan first started APCM, he and I tried for, 7 episodes to have the Star Wars versus Star Trek episode?
Yes.
And
Get through the entire thing, yes.
And it never happened.
Never happened.
So it would be
I
fitting
remember talking about it a little bit, and how we kind of came to the conclusion that they're not comparable.
Okay, there's like you said. If you're going to make it Spaceballs 2, then what are you going to do about the dog? It's Barf or something like that?
Oh,
Barf?
Barf the Mog, yes. I don't know. You would either recast it or have him die. I mean, it sounds harsh, but
Who do you think out there could they put in that character?
well, unfortunately, the only person that comes to mind that would even closely come to what John Candy did with that character, unfortunately, is also dead. The only person I could see filling those shoes would be Chris Farley. But Chris Farley's also gone, so...
I don't think he would have fit the role right. I think aside from the fact that he was also a larger man, that stylistically they were very, very different. I think their body type was about the only thing that was similar.
Or even to this day, kill that character off and bring in Fluffy as a different dog.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is with Barf being a Mog, part man, part dog, you could always make the joke that he his lifespan is in dog years, which means he would have died, and Lone Star got himself a new Mog.
I mean, you also got the thing where with Star Wars, the movies that are happening now, they are moving away from those original characters. So he could do something similar, and it would be very fitting with his satirical style.
That is true.
Yeah, for a second there, I was like, "Oh God, crickets."
No, that is true. He could definitely try to spoof or parody what they're doing with the new trilogy right now, with bringing in the original Spaceball characters simply to have them usher in the next generation of Spaceballers, for lack of a better term.
Okay, so the real question is, who's playing Ray?
As long as it's not Amy Poehler. or better yet, as long as it's not Melissa McCarthy. She's already ruined one comedy franchise.
How about Jennifer Lawrence?
Jennifer Lawrence is amazing.
I don't know how many of you guys. I watched baseball the other day, and the girl with the dark hair.
Princess Vespa.
Yeah. Right. She plays the mother on One Tree Hill.
Does she really? I don't watch that show, so this is extremely news to me.
Well, that's because I like Butcher Hill. So that was my thing.
I'm not picking on you for it. I'm just saying I don't know the actors on it. That's all.
I like 90210. Okay, do some shit that I like. Yeah, Big Bell.
Well, wait. Let me see if I can make a love connection here. Eric, do you like Glee?
Fucking hell no! I hate them too.
Sorry, Dan. I tried for you.
Eric's losing points in my book, man. He's losing points all over the place. Doesn't watch Glee. Doesn't watch Game of Thrones. What about Guardians of the Galaxy? You want to go 3 for 3 with things start with G?
No. You know what? I know Eric loves Guardians of the Galaxy.
All right, then.
Yeah, well,
He's gonna get a baby Groot tattooed on his left butt cheek.
we're gonna go to date in a couple weeks for the next pitch. I'm gonna go.
All right, on.
That's what you want.
Wasn't Spaceballs mentioned in comparison with the Orville, as a matter of fact?
We did make that comparison on the last episode we did, where I believe I had it may have been me, it may have been you, that stated that it was really like Spaceballs meets Galaxy Quest.
Well, if you and I don't remember it, it must have been Brian who said it then.
Maybe.
Yeah, because you said it was a combination of Galaxy Quest and Down Periscope.
Oh, Down Periscope. You're right. Yes. Brian mentioned Spaceballs.
Spaceball, right. But you never know. I mean, here's the thing. Maybe we're actually onto something here. Maybe Galaxy Quest and the Orville were actually homages to Spaceballs.
I know the Galaxy Quest and the Orville are probably closer to Star Trek than the new thing.
Yeah, but yes, they're both Star Trek, but maybe they saw Spaceballs and said, hey, here's a parody of Star Wars, or here's a parody of Star Trek.
That's probably exactly what they did. That's probably exactly what they did, but you know what, Kristen, you just blew my mind. Galaxy Quest really is a better Star Trek movie than the new Star Trek Discovery.
Galaxy Quest was a better Star Trek movie than a lot of the Star Trek movies.
By Grapthar's hammer, I shall avenge you.
Oh, Galaxy Quest is so amazing. I love that movie.
But I don't know. Did you see the new Orville episode?
Yes.
That was some dark shit, wasn't it? Yeah.
Well, but that goes back to the original Star Trek, is that there were a lot of episodes like that where you really had to think about it. You know, think about the episode where the guy was half black and half white, and he was chasing around another guy that was half black and half white, but he was half black and half white on the wrong side.
Well, one was half black and half white, and the other one was half white and half black.
Right.
Did I just say that?
That's what it boiled down to.
Yes.
That was, correct me if I'm wrong, that was the actor who played the Riddler in the original Batman TV series.
You are correct.
Roddy McDowell? No, not Roddy McDowell.
No. That was Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, I know. That's why I stopped myself after I said it. Like, no, that's not correct. I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
It's Frank Gershwin or something? Or Frank something like that?
Yeah, Frank Gorshin or Gershon. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I remember.
I'm trying not to confuse him with the writer from the 40s.
But yeah, the Orville, like I said to you when I watched the episode, and you had yet to see it, you hadn't seen it yet. If you love or hate Seth MacFarlane, man, he's got balls.
Yes.
To hit a button topic like gender change, sex change to a child, in this society, and everything going on in today's world, that takes some balls to make not only a comedy show, which is a better science fiction show than Star Trek Discovery, and hit a current topic like that.
And in the third episode.
In the third episode, yeah.
I think it's sad, really, that Galaxy Quest. There's been 13 official Star Trek movies. Okay, if you add Galaxy Quest and say that's the 14th, then in my mind, Galaxy Quest actually winds up in the top 5. It's the truth. And the Orville. What's that?
That's why I laughed, because it's true.
And the Orville, if you're, again, officially there's been 6 Star Trek TV shows, 7 if you count the animation. Okay? So if you add the Orville is already in the top 5 of Star Trek TV shows ever. Again, sad but true.
It's especially sad when it's only 3 episodes in.
Exactly. You know, and by the way, speaking of which, shout out to Star Trek Continues. It's a fan-made TV show that if you guys have never seen, you owe it to yourself to check it out. They've done, I want to say, like 6 or 7 episodes. They were supposed to do 13, but because of the Axonar situation, they're only going to do 2 more. So for a total of like 9 or 10 altogether. I don't know exactly how many they've done. I know they're only going to do 2 more. But when you get a chance, YouTube Star Trek Continues. All the existing ones should show up, and they're very enjoyable.
Okay.
I was waiting for
some.
Sad thing when the fans are doing a better job with the franchise than the people who have the rights to it, and now the fans' rights are being taken away.
Well, that's a whole nother subject we can get into, because besides Star Trek, Star Wars, I mean, you can go on YouTube and look up fan-made Star Wars films. You know, there's one, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head right now, but there is one that was really, really well done, like production-wise and otherwise. It's just on YouTube. Called like Forces of Destiny or something like that, before Forces of Destiny came out as a Disney XD thing. You know, that kind of dealt with the story of a Jedi Padawan during the time of the Clone Wars, and it is exceptionally well done. I'd say it's better than the prequels, and probably not as good as Rogue One, but at least as good as Force Awakens.
Wow.
You know, it is definitely something to check out. If you guys, we could have a whole story about fan-made fiction and how, you know, a whole show on fan-made fiction and how it ties in better to the franchises they're paying homage to than the franchises are doing themselves.
Oh, yeah, I think that'd be a fun show to have.
What's that?
I think that'd be a fun show to do.
We could definitely do that. Do that. But we are reaching that point.
After we get finished with Mel Brooks.
Yeah, we got to give Mel his credit first. That'll give everybody some time to look up some fan fiction stuff on YouTube and all that stuff, and all that, and be able to bring something to the table. But we are reaching that point of the show, guys. Thank you very much for hanging out with me as we decided to go from Mel Brooks into going where no man has gone before. This was the Star Trek episode. I think we'll call this the fourth wall timeline.
There you go. I second that motion.
Christen, where can they find you if they want to get in contact with you?
Well, they can find me on Facebook under my name, Christen Stovall. They can also, and this is the more reliable way, find me on the book fan page, which is the Song of Souls trilogy. If you look that up on Facebook, you'll find it. They can find me on Twitter, which I mostly ignore, but if you do tweet at me, I will reply. You can also find me on Star Wars The Old Republic. I play on the Evan Hawk server, and I am part of the guild that happens.
And also, Realm of the Mist fans, make sure you pay attention next week by next Wednesday. Or the Wednesday coming up by the time this show airs. I will be releasing my book review of Kristen's first book, Soulbound.
Oh.
Which she has been waiting on bated breath on my review. I promise it by Wednesday, this coming Wednesday. That review will be out.
Terrified breath. It's so much harder it's so much harder when people read it. So much more nerve-wracking.
Well, Kristen, I hope Chris likes it as much as Christine Elizabeth liked it.
Yes, I do too, because she really liked it. And she said nice things, and I liked that.
And she always has a book in her hand. So, and then she could not. She said once she picked it up, she could not pick it and put it back down until she was finished. She loved your book.
Yay! I like hearing that. I need more people to do that, and then I need them to make it a movie.
Well,
we can then discuss that.
Well, talk to Mario. Mario will be your connection into the movie world, as he's an aspiring actor. Eric, where can they find you if they want to contact you?
On Facebook at Eric J. Batista Sr. And I'm on Xbox One at about 1437.
And Dan, where can they find you if they want to contact you?
Usually I'm stalking Facebook at some point or another, so the best way is probably Facebook. Dan Laria, do not go for the guy from the Wonder Years. Go for the one where it's me and my son Danny. If you want to hear me, since America's pop culture is on hiatus right now, if you want to listen to the archives, go to radiocastfm.com. But on Tuesdays, I am on behind the scenes actually we're taping on a different date. When do we get on Radiocast? Saturdays?
Yeah, we're on Saturdays.
We're on Saturdays. And on Thursdays, I'm live on Top Rope Radio.
Oh.
All right, and you can find me on Realm of the Mist Entertainment or realmofthemist.com, our YouTube channel, as well as every Monday night I am Raising the Underground on Radiocast FM, and of course Breaking the Fourth Wall every Saturday on Radiocast, between 5 and 7 p.m. on Radiocast on Saturdays, Eastern Standard Time. The video to be released directly after the broadcast. So, guys, thank you for hanging out with us this week. I am foregoing the movie pick of the week because we didn't get into the Mel Brooks, and I kind of had the movie picks tie into that. So we will save that for next week, where we finally tackle just how powerful the Schwartz is. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for hanging out with us, and we'll catch you next week on Breaking the Fourth Wall. Have a good one.